everybody, it's Monkey Farm, and we're back with another episode of Scrap Mechanic. I'm really glad you guys are liking this series. It is super fun to make things in this game. It is episode 7 today. If you missed any of the previous episodes, make sure you subscribe to my channel and go back and check out the Scrap Mechanic playlist. I've done a lot of cool things so far, like a robot car transformer and some other weird vehicles and things like that. So go back and check it out. Super fun. And of course, if you enjoy the video, please give it a big thumbs up. That would be awesome as well. So today I'm going to show you kind of how I built the Temple of Notch. If you're not familiar with the original Temple of Notch, I put a link in the description to that video so you can see how FVdisco built it in Minecraft. Obviously, Scrap Mechanic is a lot different. We have some of the same functionality, but a lot of the tools and things we have to work with in this game are way different than Minecraft. So I had to do things a lot differently. Obviously, in the original Temple of Notch, you would come up and throw a gold bar into the well. We don't have the ability to throw anything, but we can dislodge objects and make them fall. So that's kind of how I reproduce throwing the gold bar, except we threw a gold duck. And that is our offering. Instead of a gold bar, the offering to Notch. So hopefully he will let us live once we get into the temple. All right. So I have to admit, I had a lot of unnecessary problems building it in this game, which is obviously different than Minecraft. Now let me show you. It looks real messy, and the reason it looks messy is because it became messy. This whole thing actually started sliding down the hill. If you see right here, there's a little bearing in the ground, and I had this whole thing attached to that bearing. The reason is because the ground is actually not straight across here. It's not straight across the path. It's totally crooked, right? So I wanted to build this thing, you know, straight, and obviously you can't build a square straight line across this path if you want to build it based on how you attach it to the ground. So I attached everything to this bearing, and somehow I guess I added too many blocks where the weight, it's either weight or the number of blocks, broke the bearing. So this thing is now no longer attached to that bearing at all, and it started sliding down the hill, and the whole thing literally started sliding down the hill. I started chasing it, going, no, stop. And anyway, that was the first exciting challenge to overcome. So anyway, you're going to see a lot of messy stuff, and if you're wondering why it's so messy and ugly and all these random blocks around, it's because I had to build supports and stuff to make this thing actually stop from sliding down the hill. All right, so let's show you how everything works. When we throw our gold bar into the well as an offering, which is going to be a duck, we have these two sensors back here. Now, one of these sensors is the good sensor, and one of these sensors is the bad sensor. Okay, so when we drop a duck and one of these sensors is activated, I had to make several things happen at the same time, but I wanted a different outcome depending on which sensor was activated, which that was the problem, because if you know Scrap Mechanic, you can only control one thing with a controller. You can't have two different controllers activating the same thing. So I wanted the doors to open either way, right? But I didn't want to be dropped into a pit both times, or I didn't want the gold ducks to be dropped both times. So how I dealt with that is I had a controller on each side from both of these sensors, and they partially activated the same thing, and then they activated a different sensor. So what you can see right down there is a sensor, and see that bearing right here and a bearing right here. This is like an L-shaped bar, and this is attached right here, and this is the left one, and this is the right sensor. So both of them will rotate and activate this sensor, which opens the doors. However, since the right one is activated right now, you can see that this bar activated this sensor, which is going to tell Notch to be nice to us. If we had the left one open, this would not be activated. This thing would be rotated, and see this wood bar right here would be activating this sensor, which is the bad one, which opens up these trap doors and also does a bunch of other messy stuff that tells Notch to close his eyes and all of that. All right, so since we activated the good sensor and Notch is going to accept us into his temple, we activated this sensor right here. And as you can see, it goes over to this controller. And what we basically did is I needed a separate controller because I needed it delayed. As you can see, the action here is 15 degrees, but it's way out here on the 4th action. So basically that means it's going to happen a lot later. What I didn't want to happen is I didn't want the doors to open up and have Notch welcome us immediately. I wanted to give us a chance to walk through the doors and look around before we knew what was going to happen to us. So it created a little bit of suspense having to wait before the welcome sign and the gold ducks dropped on us. So as you can see, we had 2 different controllers there. This one is delayed, which activates. Let's show you what it activates. It activates the rotator up there, late here. And then what it did is also rotates this little bar here. As you can see, we have 2 more sensors. What this did is, see how that green light is lit? This one, the good sensor rotated up this bar. The bad sensor would rotate up this bar and activate that sensor. As you can see, if I should have blocked something off so I couldn't activate it by walking in front of it. But as you can see, so this sensor is activated, which goes down here to this controller, which tells the welcome sign to rotate out so we can see it. See how it says welcome? That's the welcome mat. Okay, so those are all the actions attached to the good sensor. Now I'm going to close this off and everything should go back to normal. As you can see, the welcome sign will disappear. The thing that drops the ducks on us has rotated back up so we can add new ducks. And let's activate the bad sensor now. So we'll drop the duck down on that side. As you can see, that sensor is activated. So now what we're doing... Oh, I can't get down there. Hang on. Let's watch this in action. The eyes close, then the trap door opens up and we get dropped down into the pit. Okay, so as you can see this time, the good sensor is not activated and this one is rotated. So the doors, the sensor that opened the doors is activated again by this one. So we could have it the right or left. It activates that same sensor. Okay, so once the bad sensor here is activated, it goes over to this controller, and this controls a couple different things. So first, I hope you can see it. We have another little lever that moves here, and that activates the sensor here to drop down the trap doors. As you can see, there's another controller up here that's connected to the bearings on the trap door, like into the pit. And the reason I added this additional controller again is because I wanted the delay. I wanted to just set the delay to be perfect. You could probably activate it a little bit later and make it work, but as you can see, I had this one activated way late and that wasn't long enough for me, so I wanted a further delay. So basically what I did, I just had it activate another sensor and go to a controller and then have that delayed back here. They both rotate 90 degrees. As you can see, these are the doors that rotate down and drop us into the pit. The second thing that controller does is rotates this sensor, which I showed you last time. We had a lever in front of each one. So that's the good sensor. This is the bad sensor. So now that one's activated, it goes down here. And the reason this is all built here is because those sensors have to be, everything has to be attached to the same build, I guess. If I had just put those sensors here and tried to connect them to a different build, it wouldn't work. I could use like remote control, to try to connect it or whatever, but not necessary. I just built a little connected track over here. So what that does is comes down to the bad controller and it tells the eyes to close after a certain amount of time. So as you can see, I have that delayed all the way out to here. And they rotate 90 degrees. Their default is rotated -90, which means they're open. So what it's doing is telling the eyes to close because Notch doesn't want to look at our filthy faces. And then, as you can see, the trap doors drop and we get dropped into the pit. So that is how it all works. Now, once again, I apologize for how clunky this looks because it was sliding down the hill and everything's detached and everything, but that is what I've got. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was super fun to build. I was almost sad that I thought I was going to have to like try to do it again somehow. So if you weren't, if there's anything to learn from this, don't attach a gigantic building to one little bearing in the ground without supporting it somehow in case it becomes detached so it doesn't slide down the hill. As you can see, I had to build all these supports to keep it there. But aside from that, everything went pretty much, pretty smoothly, and it was a lot of fun to build. So I hope you guys like it. And that is going to be it for today. Don't forget to subscribe and thumb up the video if you enjoyed it, and we will see you all next time.